been here a long time, all the ups and downs.
Yeah.
When you have guys that care as much as you guys care, and the downs start coming after not very many the last
Right.
season and a half, does worry become something you have to combat? Guys saying, because I care so much, I don't want to mess up, and they're not playing as fast and free, or amateur psychologist here.
Yeah,
What do
I
you think
think
is?
yeah, and we talked about that a little bit last week. I think that's why I was so proud of how we came out and played last week. I think there is certainly always going to be a part of that when you have 18 to 22-year-olds that are growing into, their own uniqueness and best version of themselves. And I think that's going to happen. I also think a little bit along the way too, we got a unique dynamic. There's so many young players being forced into critical roles that, I think you're trying to catch those guys up, and you're also trying to get your A players to not feel like they have to overcompensate because of some of the unique challenges that obviously this team is facing. And so I think there's a lot of that going on. And I think the pride I take is, man, watching our kids play. Shoot, I couldn't be prouder of like the humans and the attitude, effort, and intent that we're playing with. It's precision and detail, and you're going to have that. And you got a mix of, man, monumental youth in critical moments, in critical situations that are trying to learn how to and being forced to. And you got these veteran guys that are, man, stepping up and making huge plays, but man, that you're asking a lot. And so, yeah, I think there's a good balance right now. And the great thing is that's why they call you team, because you got to figure it out together. And I think it's a great challenge. It's a great challenge that we're in. Great to have the leadership we have, because I don't think you see panic. I don't think you see flinching. I certainly don't think you see quitting. And so the reality of it is you just keep working through it, and we'll come out the other side of it better than we started in it, which is exciting for us.
And in terms of your offense, I would guess it's both encouraging and a little bit discouraging that you're moving the football
Sure.
so well,
Yeah.
and it's not always translating to as many points as you probably feel you used to have.
Yeah, probably. I think that's a great point. And again, I think when you look at the last three games, you see a mix of what I just said. You see some critical youth and some critical injuries dictating some of that. And then you see some of the precision and detail of some of our A moments have to be better. And so, it's a unique mix that all those guys are working through. And really, they're all being forced to kind of do it right now, the first time in their career. And so, like I said, I think those are things. The positive is you see a lot of positive and continued growth. We're getting better in a lot of areas. The part that's hard is the result of maybe the point or the win is not coming yet. But as long as you keep pounding away at it, we'll be right where we want to be when we need to be there.
Matt, you could face Jeff Sims this weekend. In a situation like this, do you go back and look at a player's previous stops as you get ready?
I think the thing that's unique, and obviously Jeff's played a lot of football, and I think you've seen it already. You saw it in the fourth quarter a little bit Saturday from them. Man, I really think he came in and was a monumental spark of success for them. And when you see a guy like Jeff that's played a lot of really good football, and is a unique challenge, because I think him and Sam probably have some similarities. They both are elite runners with the football. They can create in the pocket. They've got the ability to run the offense. And, I'll give Kenny a lot of credit. I mean, I think he's done a great job of having a great 1-2 punch at quarterback. Both those guys can run the system and run the offense. And then obviously they've got great playmakers around them. So I think it really helps. But you certainly are always looking at, every piece of the puzzle to try to give yourself the best opportunity to be successful, no matter who plays quarterback.
What questions have you found yourself asking yourself and your staff the last 72 hours?
Yeah, I don't really think much different than really where we've been. I think it's how do we continue to be the best teachers right now for the youth of this football team that's being asked to do things that probably weren't expected to do. And how do we keep trying to do everything in our power to put them in great positions to be successful? I think that's the thing that, again, I'm pretty proud of. I don't feel like, we're not doing that. I think we've probably done that at probably a higher rate than maybe, even we probably have been in the past in these situations that we're under. But I think the biggest thing is you better have poise. You better be the leader in the moment, because you're asking a lot of guys to do a lot of things that are a unique challenge. And leadership always starts from the top and works its way down. And we can't flinch. We can't waver, especially if you're asking the kids to not flinch and waver. So I think the biggest thing for us is you got to be great teachers. And as I've said many times, our world's missing great leadership. So be the leader. That's what you're paid to do, and that's the expectation. And you got to help, lead the young guys. Nobody's coming to save you, so you better be the leader, and you better help these young guys do a great job of like growing through it. But that's our job and our responsibility.
Rocco, to us, has been pretty critical of his own play the last 2 games.
Yeah.
What have you seen, and what are you telling him right now?
I think very similar to what, my comment to Rob, like, man, Rocco is, probably at times the last couple games, really the last 3, we've asked him to do a lot more than probably he should be being asked to do, just because of the game flow, some of the situations that we've been under, with our kicking situation and different things. And so, boy, man, we put a lot on his plate, and I think he's responded in a really positive way to a lot of it. And probably very similar to what I'm talking about with the coaches is like, listen, man, like I don't know what, he was 16 and 19 at one point on Saturday, and was just, giving us every opportunity to win the football game. Like, stay within yourself, great poise. We're going to be just fine, and we got to keep doing a great job of finding those inches that we're missing. But man, I couldn't be prouder of that guy. And like I said, there's no quarterback or player in the country that I'd rather lead with than that guy. So, it's great to have a great relationship with him, because you can really talk through some of these moments. And again, man, what he's going to become coming out of this, man, it's even going to be funner to watch who that guy is and what he stands for. But he's doing a great job for us.
With the Big 12 title game likely off the table, what becomes the big picture goal or the rallying cry for your team?
Yeah, and again, those are things that we'll see at the end of the season. I don't think we've ever sat there and worried about, end results. We've worried about the moment, and how do we do a great job in the moment. I think what Saturday becomes November football, right? And we've always built this program to be its best in November, and that's the next part of our football team coming forward. And you're asking a lot of pieces to be its best right now. A lot of guys that are playing critical roles that haven't maybe got some of those meaningful reps that some of the other chunk of our team has. And so, man, how do we become the best team in the month of November? And we'll define our football team positive, minuses at the end of the season, when you can sit back and reflect on all those things. But I think you put your head down, you go to work, and the results will come as long as we continue to improve and get ourselves better. So yeah, I think that's really been our approach. It's always been our approach. Win, loss, no matter where we are, it's how do you get better next week so you can be your best in the moment.
And what are your impressions of this Arizona State team, and what makes them unique compared to last year?
Yeah, I think uber talented across the board. You're talking a team that's got obviously they've got championship pedigree. They had a great year a year ago. You see that. I mean, you see how they played. They're uber athletic, probably the most athletic team that we've played across the board all season. They're physical at the point of attack, and they've got great skill players. They've got difference makers all over the place, and they've done a great job of that. They play really hard and be a really great challenge for a football team.
Coach Mauser talked about how doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity, and kind of altering different things in practice to help lead the team to more success. He mentioned additional walkthroughs, various drills. How did you as the head coach identify those being things that this team needed to get through the losing streak and come out on the positive end?
Well, again, and I think I've used this word a lot in here, is the word curious, right? I mean, I think you're always looking for ways to help your team be the best. And every season, every week is different, right? And you got different challenges, different, situations that are thrown at you. And the coach's job is to respond to those challenges and then find a platform and, be the teacher. Again, I think we're in this crazy world that we don't realize, like, we are teachers, and our responsibility is to figure out what the student needs, and then how do you provide the best, best game plan in terms of man, how do you implement it? How do you teach them on Tuesday? How do you teach them on Wednesday? How do you teach them on Thursday? And sometimes the students keep changing. So you got to be able to adapt to that change and give the students what they need to be their best. So it's what I love about the job, and it's what makes the job a real challenge, because it's always changing and you have to have the ability to adapt as the professional. So we work really hard at that to try to give our kids what they need.
Being the head coach, players, your assistants, they look at you for answers. Who do you look for to try and find answers during these moments of struggle?
Yeah, well, nice thing is I've been through them plenty. So, I think I always say your scars are your superpower. And, we've had a lot of ups and downs. And, this is, as I've always said, this place, you're always going to go up the rough side of the mountain, and you're going to have really tough challenges that are going to come your way. And I think that's been the really special thing about our program, is we've had this unique ability to always find a way to overcome them. And we do, because we've got a really great staff that works together. We've got a great team that works together. Certainly, there's great people that I'll reach out to, but at the end of the day, you got to use your players, you got to use your coaches, because I got absolute faith and trust in those people. And when we're working together, we're all pulling in the same direction. We'll pull through any hard things that come our way.
Injury update: Will McLaughlin, Kaijan, Jace Gilbert. Anybody else I missed?
No, Kaijan will be out for the year. He tried to come back. We're going to shut him down. He needs surgery. So we're going to do that. He physically can't do it, and I really appreciate him trying. I think Will McLaughlin will be all right. That was a tough blow. Will was playing really good in the first half. We'll kind of see where he is. I would say right now, be questionable for Saturday. I think there's a chance that he may be back and ready to play. Jace Gilbert looks like he's going to be able to go, which would be great. We've been trying to get him back, and he's done an unbelievable job. And so I think there's probably a real chance, kick today, which was awesome. And so, obviously would be great to have him back if he was able to be back for us this Saturday.
And then Dominic Orange last week. You don't see many guys listed as doubtful go on to play the amount of snaps that he did. I mean, what does that kind of say about his leadership and just how critical he is to the defense?
Boy, I would say, from day one to when Dom came to Iowa State to who Dom Orange is today, probably one of the great success stories that we've had. And, Dom obviously has great talent. I think growing into that talent, growing into the man that he's become, he's articulate, he's sharp, he cares. He's always been selfless in terms of trying to become his best. And, I couldn't have been prouder of him. I nowhere near 100% healthy Saturday, and I thought the way he played in the football game and, didn't want to come out of the game, I thought he was incredible. And so, it'd be great. Hopefully this week will give him another, round of time to even be a little bit close to full strength as we get to this coming Saturday. But really appreciate him and certainly appreciate his leadership for sure.
Hey, Coach. Sorry, Ben. How do you manage emotion right now?
Yeah, just be the same guy every day. Pretty easy for me.
You mentioned Jace Gilbert might be coming back. What would that help in the returning and in covering kicks game?
Yeah, that's been obviously a tough challenge. So I think consistency probably would be the word that I should use. Jace has been such a key piece of that for us. I think last year we only covered 30% of our kickoffs, right? He had 70% touchback rate. So having that guy there, and I think if you've watched us play, you've seen some of the unique challenges that we've been under in those areas. That consistency and obviously his ability would be huge for our football team to have back.
And I guess not to make it all sound like it's on that, were there any problems you've noticed in the last few games in terms of getting down and tackling?
Absolutely not. Our kids have been. You want to talk about 10 warriors? You talk about those kids that have had to run down on that kickoff team, because those are the toughest kids you've ever seen. What those kids have done have been absolutely incredible. So again, when the ball's getting caught on the 15-yard line with no hang time and you're asked to run down there, that's a tough challenge. So, and again, that's not a discredit to anybody, because we're asking everybody to step up. But those 10 kids have been running down, buddy, those are about the toughest kids you're going to find in this state. So those guys should be interviewed.
You used the term OKG, our kind of guy at the 2025 Media Day.
Yeah.
Can you just describe your philosophy and
what does that mean and how do you execute it?
Yeah, I think it's been really fun for us here to build a football program, and been nice to be one place probably for 10 years. So you kind of have a really good feeling, and probably even through my own growth and maturity as a head football coach, to understand the value of what it takes to win football games here at Iowa State. And I think the uniqueness of that is, OKG is our kind of guy. And, this place isn't for everybody, because there are going to be really good days and there are going to be really tough days. And, we have to win a very unique style, probably very different than everybody else in college football right now, from how we acquire talent to how we have to develop our talent and where we have to get them to be able to play successful football. And there's a mentality and a toughness that it takes. And I think one of the things that we're looking for in that process is the guy that understands a team. Do you understand the value of what team is? It's not about you, it's about the team. And then, we've always talked about these 3 value systems, and any young man that we've brought to school here is, number one is this unbelievable understanding of character, like understanding that character does matter at this place. And I've always said this, and fitting for this time of year, is can you build a team you can lose with first? And you're going to go through adversity, you're going to go through hard. Can we just keep growing and working through it? And I think the world doesn't see that right now, but they will soon, that this group is going to come through this in a really powerful way, because they haven't wavered, and they haven't allowed results to dictate their character, which is big. Number 2, you got to love football, and this is a hard sport. You're going to have injuries, you're going to have tough times. You're going to start at the bottom, and sometimes you're going to have to work your way to the top. And you gotta love football to do this game, and this game can be humbling in a lot of ways, but you got to have a great passion for it. I think every young guy out there says, I love it, but do you love it when it gets really hard? And then the last thing is guys that understand the value of academics. Those guys have fit here. I still think, how you do academics, how you do school, how you carry yourself outside of here is really going to be indicative of who you are in terms of your character. So, it's been unwavering for us in terms of how we've tried to build a football team. And you really appreciate it, especially in moments like this, because you see there's a pathway forward, and you got kids and you got a team that understands those value systems. So that's what our OKG's meant for us.